Today's headline takes us into the heart of life on Earth, biodiversity. What does it mean, and why is it the cornerstone of our planet's health? To help us unpack this vital topic, we'll break it down with expert insights and visuals that bring the concept to life. Joining us now is Victoria. Hello, Victoria.
Hello.
So first of all, can you walk us through what biodiversity even is?
Sure. Biodiversity refers to the variety of life forms such as plants and animals in a particular environment. To break it down, there are three main types: genetic, species, and ecosystem biodiversity. Genetic biodiversity is a range of genetic material present in a species populations, meaning the diversity within a single species. Species biodiversity expands on this, covering the number of different species present per unit area. Lastly, ecosystem biodiversity looks at the range of different habitats or ecological niches per unit area in an ecosystem, community, or biome.
So basically, biodiversity reflects the diversity of life at all levels, from genes to species to even ecosystems. That's fascinating.
Yep, it is.
So now that we've explored the basics of biodiversity, it's time to understand why it's so crucial to the health of our planet. To guide us through this, we have reporter Angelina, who's standing by to discuss the importance of biodiversity from several perspectives. Angelina, over to you.
Thanks, DJ. I'm here in the world's largest rainforest, the Amazon rainforest, a perfect example of how biodiversity impacts our world. As we look around, it's quite obvious that biodiversity plays a pivotal role in maintaining the balance of the ecosystem. But why exactly is diversity so important to our lives? Let's start with one key reason: maintaining a diverse gene pool. Conserving genetic diversity means to have a lot of mutations or variation in a species' DNA. This causes differences in important traits that can impact the adaptability of the organism to the environment. Thus, the more diverse the gene pool of the species is, the more likely the species would survive from the changing environment.
A classic example is the pepper moth in Britain. Before the Industrial Revolution, light-colored moths thrived, blending in with the white tree trunks. But due to pollution, tree trunks became dark, and the darker moths, which were less visible to predators, began to dominate. By 1895, 98% of the peppered moth in the urban areas were dark-winged. The variation in the peppered moth population, in this case the color ranging from light to dark, meant that some individuals were more likely to survive the changing environment. Without this genetic diversity, the population could have been wiped out entirely. This adaptability is key to maintaining not just species survival but the resilience of entire ecosystems. With extreme changes to the environment today, maintaining a wide range of biodiversity has become crucial to prevent the wipe out of species.
A resilient ecosystem benefits all life within it, from tiny insects to large mammals, including us. But it's not just about survival. Biodiversity also has huge economic implications. In agriculture, for instance, biodiversity is directly tied to food production. 1/3 of the world's food relies on natural insect pollination, and this means that the variety of pollinators, bees and butterflies and others, has immense economic value. Without them, our food supply will be severely impacted.
It's not just food. Biodiversity plays a crucial role in bioremediation, the process by which biological organisms clean up pollutants. The microbial life in soil works to break down 75% of the 100,000 harmful chemicals released to the environment, providing services worth $135 billion every year worldwide. Without these natural processes, we need to rely on more expensive and less efficient methods to manage waste.
And the numbers are staggering. Biodiversity contributes to the global economy, generating over $150 trillion annually, more than double the world's GDP. That's the power of nature working in harmony. So, as we've seen, conserving biodiversity isn't just a matter of protecting rare species or iconic landscapes. It's about safeguarding the very systems that keep our world and our economies functioning. Thank you.
Across Asia, the tiger, an iconic symbol of strength and beauty, is rapidly disappearing. In just the past 100 years, 93% of its habitat has been lost. From a population of 100,000, fewer than 3,500 tigers remain today. Poaching, habitat loss, and human conflicts are pushing them towards extinction. But there still is hope. The Integrated Tiger Habitat Conservation Program, or ITHCP, is working to reverse these trends and safeguard the future of tigers and their ecosystems. Today we're joined by 3 experts from the ITHCP to discuss how they're using 3 critical conservation strategies to protect tigers and the biodiversity of their habitats. Welcome to our roundtable discussion. We're joined today by Dr. Baral, a biologist within the ITHCP, Mr. Ahmed, a conservation policy expert, and Ms. Sampson, an outreach and community engagement specialist. Let's dive right into our first strategy, habitat preservation. So Dr. Baral, you mentioned that habitat loss is one of the most pressing challenges for tiger conservation. Can you elaborate on the restoration efforts that the ITHCP is leading?
Absolutely. Tigers need large, continuous habitats to thrive, places where they can hunt, roam, and breed. But human activities such as deforestation and urbanization have fragmented their environment. That's why habitat restoration is so critical. Through the ITHCP, we've worked in countries like India, Nepal, and Indonesia to restore over 6,700 square kilometers of tiger habitats. We've also planted over 480,000 native trees and constructed 32 water holes to ensure that the ecosystem can support tiger populations.
That's an impressive effort. What's even more encouraging is that when we restore habitats, not only do tigers benefit, but the entire ecosystem does as well. Other species like birds and plants are thriving too.
Right. Also, we created over 108 kilometers of fire lines to control wildfires. Without this, the restored habitats could be lost to fires, which have become more frequent due to climate change.
That's incredible. So, Dr. Baral, in your opinion, how effective is habitat restoration in addressing the root causes of tiger population decline?
Well, it's essential. While poaching, the human-wildlife conflict are major threats, without suitable habitats, tigers can't survive. Restoration is like rebuilding their home, but it's just one piece of the puzzle.
Thank you. Now let's move on to the different key strategy, wildlife corridors. Ms. Sampson, you've been leading efforts to create corridors that link fragmented habitats. Can you explain how exactly these corridors work?
Yes. So, wildlife corridors are strips of land that connect protected areas, allowing animals to move safely between them. For tigers, this is crucial because it ensures that they have access to larger areas where they can hunt, find mates, and maintain genetic diversity. For instance, in Maharashtra, we've connected 5 major tiger reserves over 2,300 square kilometers. These corridors are like highways for wildlife, providing a safe passage between protected areas.
Absolutely, and the role of local communities is critical here. We've worked with farmers and villagers to restore these corridors. In Assam, India, we restored 100 hectares in the Shiaribas corridor, connecting 2 national parks. This not only helps tigers, but also other species like elephants and leopards.
That's fascinating. So, Ms. Sampson, how do corridors help tigers cope with the challenges posed by climate change?
Great question. So as temperature rises, species may need to migrate to cooler areas. And without these corridors, tigers would be trapped in isolated pockets, unable to reach a more suitable habitat. Corridors act as lifelines, allowing species to shift their ranges in response to changing climates.
And this is where the interconnectedness of our efforts really matters. Restoring habitats, creating corridors, and engaging communities work together to give tigers a fighting chance, even in the face of climate change.
Thank you. Finally, let's talk about community engagement. Mr. Ahmed, you've emphasized the importance of involving local communities in conservation efforts. Can you explain how this approach works in practice in the real-life world?
Well, conservation isn't just about protecting wildlife. It's about empowering the people who live alongside it. In the past, conservation programs excluded local communities, but we've learned that the most effective way to protect wildlife is to involve these people. Through the ITHCP, we've reached over 675,000 people with awareness campaigns and training programs. Over 95,000 of them received in-depth training in sustainable farming and livestock management.
Exactly, and one of the best things we've done is provide 7,500 households with improved cooking stoves. These stoves reduce firewood consumption by 65%, which decreases the pressure on the forest. This not only helps protect tiger habitats, but also reduce
human-wildlife conflicts by cutting down on poaching and illegal logging.
That's a great example of how conservation and community development can go hand in hand. And I imagine it goes beyond just reducing forest depletion. What other initiatives have been successful?
Well, we've also helped more than 1,400 households adopt alternative livelihood like ecotourism and beekeeping. These initiatives provide sustainable income streams and reduce reliance on forest resources, helping to prevent illegal activities like poaching. The key is to show the local people the value of protecting our nature.
And when people benefit from conservation, they become active partners in protecting the environment. It's a win-win situation for both the tiger and the communities.
Thank you. It's clear that the ITHCP is making a significant impact. Through habitat preservation, wildlife corridors, and community engagement, you're not just protecting tigers, you're also preserving entire ecosystems. And the results do speak for themselves. Since the program began, tiger populations in some areas have increased by an average of 40%, demonstrating the real, measurable success of these conservation strategies. So, by working together across borders, communities, and ecosystems, we can ensure that tigers and the biodiversity they represent have a future. The ITHCP's efforts are proof that conservation works, but only when we act as one. And now, for our next report, we'll turn to a team of researchers at Calvin Nature Reserve and learn about the very tools and methods that they showcase how they do the things that they do. Researchers, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Hi everyone, we're biology researchers out in the nature reserve, and today we're going to walk you through the different equipment and methods we use to monitor biodiversity. Before we get into counting how many species or individuals there are in the field like this, we first have to identify the species in question. We do that by using field guides, which are small reference books designed to help with species identification. We look for field marks, which are traits we can use to distinguish the species from others, and look for a match in our field guide to see what species it is. Today, we're using it on plants, but there exist many different field guides. For example, guides for birds, fish, animals, and even rocks. So you're walking around the nature preserve and stumble upon an interesting plant that you've never seen before, like this one. You then take your field guide and try to find the species that the mystery plant looks like. This one looks like an orchid. So if we flip to that page, this is Phalaenopus amabilis moth orchid. Now that we've identified the species, it's time to gather some data for their population and distribution. Since an entire field is too large for us to count every single species, we use quadrats to randomly sample a part of the field, then use the data to estimate the entire field's population. This right here is a quadrant, a square frame usually about 1 meter by 1 meter, and we use it to make a small area to survey. Now, when counting the numbers of species in your field, this is how you do it.
You split the field into a grid of 1 meter by 1 meter squares and randomly choose the number of squares. For this case, let's say 10. Use a random number generator for choosing which squares to sample. After that, you go and sample the quadrats that were chosen, counting the number of organisms you're looking for in each quadrat.
For example, here we have 5 orchids inside our quadrant. We don't usually count the ones that are mostly out of the square. We count the ones that are in the square. Do this for all of your sampling quadrants.
Average out the number of species in the quadrats, then multiply by the number of grid squares. That is your estimate for the total number of samples in your field.
Besides quadrats, we have transits, which is a fancy name for a long line. And here we have a transit.
We use transits to see changes in organisms' distribution throughout the field. For example, we set up a transit here, then we take our quadrat and get samples at set intervals along the transit. If you find that the number of individuals increases as you go along the transit, it helps you see the distribution of the organism in the field. For example, if the number is low, then suddenly gets high, it may be that the shadow from a tree causes less growth due to less sunlight.
Now, the previous method of using quadrats and transects works well for unmoving species like plants. But what if we want to know the population of fast-moving animals? Well then, we use a strategy called mark and recapture. It's exactly what it sounds like. You mark and then you recapture.
First, you go into the population and capture a few of the species you want to study, say about 60. Then you mark them and release them back into the wild. Later, you recapture a portion of the same population and see how much of them are marked. Using ratios, we can estimate how many individuals are in the entire population. We can do this multiple times to get a better estimate of the population size.
Like you've seen, there are many ways to monitor and gather data about biodiversity. We can use field guides, quadrats, transects, and mark and recapture techniques. I hope you had fun learning about these techniques.
Recently, a small fire in a small town in the United States has almost turned into a large wildfire. It was a situation where there would have been many casualties, but it's known that the area was able to prevent this by focusing on prevention. So we brought in a wildfire expert to raise awareness about wildfires and its prevention. Hello, Angelina.
Hello, I'm Angelina, the expert on forest fire.
Thank you for coming. Before we move on to our main discussion, can you please explain what forest fire is and how it's mostly caused?
Sure. A forest fire is a fire burning in an area of land with many trees that is difficult to control and sometimes spreads quickly. There are various causes of forest fire like lightning strikes, volcanic eruptions, as well as human activities such as unattended campfires, and this was the cause of wildfire. The two hikers of the mountain, May David and Caleb Malboy, who accidentally left the campfire unattended.
That's right. The wildfire was the largest wildfire in Arizona history. It was a forest fire that started in the White Mountains near Alpine, Arizona on May 29, 2011. It was massive and mighty as it burned 1,900 square kilometers and destroyed 32 houses, 4 commercial buildings, and 36 outbuildings. Here is video of the fire suppression at that time.
I am here at the fire scene. Here on the front lines of the wall of fire, the scene tells a crucial story about how we manage our forest. For a century, fire suppression and logging have created unnaturally dense forests, primed for massive wildfires. We've seen the devastating results, huge, intense blazes that wipe out entire forests. But as this fire burns, we're also seeing a solution in action: field treatment. Firefighters are using a combined approach here, working alongside areas where prescribed burns and mechanical thinning using heavy machinery to clear smaller trees have already taken place. This approach reduces future fire intensity and promotes healthier forests without harming the undergrowth, soil, wildlife, or carbon storage. Right here above Alpine, we can see the difference. As the wall of fire reached the half-mile wide field treatment area, its behavior changed dramatically. The flames dropped from the crowns to the ground, slowing its spread and shortening the flames, giving these firefighters a chance to safely defend homes and stop the fire's advance.
I can't remember how serious the situation was. Oh, I heard that a reporter has arrived at the scene right now. 14 years later of the wall of fire, how has the damage changed since then? Let's connect to the scene.
I'm here in White Mountain 14 years after the devastating wall of fire. This massive blaze impacted over 500,000 acres, scorching diverse ecosystems from ponderosa pine forests to riparian areas. Initial assessments show significant damage with varying degrees of soil burn severity across the landscape. Immediately after the fire, plant growth was non-existent. However, monsoon rains spurred a rapid recovery in lower elevations, with grasses and forests quickly taking hold. Over the next decade, thanks to the U.S. Forest Service and local community efforts, White Mountain began to heal. But recovery isn't a quick process. Even after 10 years, the scars remain. Many dead trees will stand, a stark reminder of the fire's intensity. The U.S. Forest Service has been actively involved in reforestation, collecting seeds to help bring back native species. A member of the U.S. Forest Service says,
The aspen is coming back really, really strong.
The White Mountain is trying to rebuild itself after a tragic loss. Let's all wait with a positive mind until it returns to its original state.
I could feel the immense power of the forest fire. If this is the case, we cannot leave out the discussion on forest fire prevention. Angelina, how can we prevent forest fires in our daily lives?
Wildfire prevention starts with everyday vigilance. Extinguish cigarettes completely, build safe campfires, operate equipment responsibly, and avoid fireworks, especially in dry conditions, will prevent forest fire in advance.
Thank you, Angelina, for sharing and coming here. Please visit the U.S. Forest Fire Service website for information about the forest fires happening now in the U.S., as well as more daily behaviors to prevent small fires from becoming large. Now that wraps up our Wildfire Prevention Week special news for January 25, 2025, and thank you very much.